for listening to the first episode of One Quick Point, the first of a two-part episode on friendship. My good friend Joshua Porter is with me, and we really in the first series dug into our origin stories, really understood our backgrounds and how that might shape some of our opinions. But in this episode, we're going to start to dig into friendship itself, our thoughts on it, what it means to be a good friend to each other, and how that definition of friendship is growing and evolving over time. So I won't say too much here. Again, really good conversation with a great friend. So I hope you enjoy and have some moments that you can reflect on your own friendships as well. Let's jump in. So when I was thinking about the topic of friendship, I had to start with first just thanking you for being a friend, because we have, if I'm going to be stereotypical, so we traveled down the road back again. But if I'm going to be real, I mean, we have seen each other through marriage, divorce, death, children, new jobs, a pandemic, moves, literally carrying my shit to a U-Haul more than once. So thank you for being you. And it's kind of funny that we met on Twitter over a decade ago now. Yeah. And it has led to all of that. So I appreciate that. But I do want to start by asking you, what is your definition of friendship?
So with all of my close friends, there's a depth to the friendship where it's almost like we're family. Like, I would say friendship is there has to be a few things. So one, reciprocity, right? If it's one-sided, like you're a counselor or a therapist and not a friend. Mm-hmm. Right? Two, there's a transparency that has to exist. Of course, trust is built over time and over experiences that you have with the person. And for me, it's important that my friendships have a level of like fun and funny in them, right? Where we can, like, we're all going after something, but we can still joke, we can still party, we can still grab food or grab drinks, and we can cry and counsel. So, yeah, I think it's reciprocity, trust, and fun.
Transparency.
Yeah.
Okay, so your definition of friendship is full and deep. It's a real thing. What I've experienced a lot is people say quite frequently, oh, that's my friend, that's this, that's that. And that group can be very large. But when you talk to people in more real terms, they say, well, I have a small group of friends. Yeah. And I guess my thought process around this is, what I want to ask is, do you feel like your definition of friendship is reflected by society? Like when we see TV shows talking about friendship, you had, at least for the women, like Insecure or Girlfriends. For the men, you kind of have I guess we didn't really have shows like that, but maybe a few movies like The Best Man or The Wood, yeah, where it's like, all right, this group, small group, a little messy at times, but that group is there. Do you feel like, in general, like, would you experience other people who who have friends, do you feel like they have what we see on TV, or do they have something different?
Well, it's interesting, because when I think about, if we're talking about Black shows, think about Living Single. Mm-hmm. They were all friends. And
great show. And growing up in New York, I used to want to be like, oh, this is what it's going to be like. Mm-hmm. We all professional. We live in a brownstone
together. Yeah. And even Martin, mm-hmm, right? So he had his boys, Tommy,
and Cole,
and Cole. Fresh Prince, Will had Jazz.
But do you feel like that's people's actual experiences?
So I feel like it's a combination. I think growing up in my household, my brother, he's a year younger than me, but we were all we had. So during the summer, because we had to stay in the house until parents got home. So during the summer, during vacation, and just all other times, we were very close as kids. And my dad was very affirming, and he was a conversationalist. So we'd all talk, and he would engage with us. And so when it comes to especially male friendships of mine, I think it's not as common as the ones we see on TV or just in general. I've had people who I've dated tell me that the friendships that I have with my male friends is unique and uncommon, and that they don't really see men communicate, bond, laugh, share things with each other the way that I do with my friends.
So that part is interesting, because even as I was thinking about this topic of friendship, there was a story, and I shared it with you on social, where there was this group of black men that had one of them, basically, he acknowledged, well, I don't really have friends. And he said, he tried, because his wife suggested that he, build some sort of community. And he said, when he was growing up, it was easy. Everybody did the same things. Mm-hmm. But then as an adult, if you didn't maintain those bonds, it was very hard to come out the other side and make new friends at this age. And I think he was in his late 30s. And his whole thing was, okay, I work at home. I worked at home before the pandemic. And so that was my world. I don't think they had kids, so there was no other natural way to say, okay, I'm mixing with new people. Meanwhile, his wife had friends. And so there was that dynamic. And so he's like, I'm trying to do this. The only way he knew how is he started, I think, a meetup group, essentially, of people looking for friendship.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. Do you feel like we've gotten to a place in society where that is the norm? Because I've gone back and forth with people over the idea that it's possible to make new friends past 30. Friends.
Yeah, no.
Not work friends that when I go to work we chill.
Yeah.
But friends.
So I haven't had that experience. But I'm also just in my DNA is to be social and friendly, and so I make friends pretty easily.
That make it into the inner circle.
Well,
you might be putting people out there by saying yes or no.
No. Friends. So I'll say friends who have the opportunity to.
Okay.
But my inner circle is pretty tight, and you know this. So you.
He's naming names.
Yeah, I was gonna say you, James. No, so you, Chaz, and Brian. I've been friends with you guys for over a decade, almost 20 years with Brian, and we've never had a falling out. We've moved, we haven't been in touch as much because of life.
Right.
But there's never been I'm not talking to James.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not going to see and chill with Chaz, right? We don't have that falling out, which I think on TV and in society, sometimes the narrative is you're not really friends unless you have a falling out.
That's one of them.
Right.
Or once there is the falling out, that it's not repairable.
Yes.
There's no coming back from whatever that thing is, and now there's just distance. And I've had that before with men and women where there are the moments when you don't talk. I had some friends I didn't talk to in years.
Yeah.
But if we talked tomorrow, I would feel the same.
Yeah.
The challenge that I have with sometimes that, and when I think about friendship, the reason why I ask, friendship after 30, how deep can you go with someone? Is that once you meet and you interact, you can have a good time and you can enjoy a place and space. But how might you create a friendship where that person can kind of fit into your life? And I think part of it is, me and my introverted self. I'm like, oh, well, do I put enough into being out there and open to build those types of bonds?
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not. But then the other side of it is, I think friendship has changed in terms of how we live with friendship with our generation. And the premise that I have is we don't do the things that our parents did with their friends that created the bonds that would allow people to kind of move to that layer deeper after a certain age. What do you think about that?
So I for me, it's when I meet up with that person, we kick it for like hours, and there is that depth to our conversation. Mm-hmm. So even if we kick it like once every, few months, that one time we're together for like 4 hours or 5 hours, and we might bounce around to different places, and we're talking the whole time, right? So, I do understand what you're saying though, because like my parents would have like space nights and Friday night dance parties and all that kind of stuff, right?
And to me, it felt more free flowing then.
Yeah.
And so I think there's like stages, right? There's people that you're friends with only outside, and there are many people who we're friendly with, but I think it would be seen like a new activity if they were to come to the house. Whereas I feel like our parents' generation, like, yeah, you brought people over all the time.
Yeah.
Not everybody got an invitation, but there was a group of people, and also to their generation, you had to ask beforehand, but you could go to somebody's house and bring somebody they didn't know. Yeah. I feel like our generation is like, pause. I'm not having everybody at my house. We're going to do our activities outside. We're going to go out. And so our activity will be based to the time and whatever is happening. So we like to go on trips together. Like everybody went to the snowboarding trip or the skiing trip, yeah. Or they went to the bar crawl, but like they don't necessarily have the same group nights where those natural friendships may happen. Or if they do it, it's so tightly structured to like, oh, he or she was cool. They came to the spades night. They came to the game night. Yeah. But like, there's not much interaction outside of that in a way that would build a friendship.
Yeah. Well, and when you talk about like being friends with people of a different gender, right? Like there are times when those people get in relationships.
Yeah.
And or even me, like because the deep friendships I have with males, I have them with women as well, and like I have to navigate maintaining that friendship, and that's done through like communication too, where it's like, hey, I'm dating someone now, and they may not feel as comfortable with me,
Yeah, and specifically if you're going out, well, I guess either way, going out or coming in, mm-hmm. But what you do with that friend.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's lots of times when it's like you're just doing something to have fun, but it can be seen as in competition with a couple activity.
Yes.
Or it looks like a couple activity.
Yep. Yeah.
Especially I'm focusing on this like 30 zone because it's a transition phase where it's like, all right, well, we're kind of like nesting in many different ways of like, all right, well, we got a spot and we're not as outside as we used to be for a lot of people. Some people are still the same, but it's like, who gets to navigate those spaces?
Yeah.
That's free flowing. Like, my parents had friends that, shocker, they didn't have to call and schedule it before they came. Yeah. It was just like, oh, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Are you home?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I wonder, am I the only one? And two, am I thinking too hard about what the parameters are for like a friend. Um,
Well, I think proximity plays a role in it, right? So, like if we live closer to each other, I think we see each other more often.
that would be interesting rhythm to test. What I've determined.
Like we did remember when you lived in Alexandria?
Mm-hmm.
So we did live like right down the street from each other.
No, because so you want to talk about like, oh, we never fallen out. That was a period of time when I was like, wait, what's going on? Is there something going on that I need to pay attention to? Because I remember I moved back. We were living 10 minutes away from each other. The first time I saw you was like 6 weeks after I moved back, and it was in New York. I moved back, and I saw you for the first time at Afropunk.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute.
We were like one metro stop from.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe we're not as close as we used to be. It's been some years. I don't know. And then you meet, and like you said, it's the same. It feels normal. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's part of like what I'm thinking about. Where do we move into a life stage where when you build certain pieces of your life, that friendship dynamic changes, and it doesn't mean that you like the person unless you're not engaged, unless the rules of engagement around like how we interact is just different. Because I don't know that right now, if we lived 10 minutes away from each other, we'd be kicking it every weekend.
True.
It's like we're just doing different things.
Yeah.
But
so I've always thought I think it's important to have those in between soft touches to keep the friendship going.
Well, yeah, so you know what's happening in that other person's life, right?
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes I've had that where that is the thing that not keeps the friendship going, but it reaffirms. Like, so so that period of time where I was in New York, a later period, it was like, all right, so I'm in grad school, wife's pregnant, my mom is sick, life is crazy.
Yeah.
There was a group of people who, I don't know if that circle existed, but it created another circle inside the inner circle of people who show up when your life is crazy. And it's only if you do those touch bases when you don't hear from somebody or you see them, but you're like, I don't know. I have a friend, Ruben. I will feel like sometimes I have kind of like a sixth sense. I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And so I'll call and I'm hearing, and I'm like, all right, I hear something in your voice. Are you okay? There's literally times when I'm like, all right, I should fly out there. He says he's okay, but does he need something?
Yeah.
And so sometimes those little touch points that you were talking about are the things that help you show up as a friend when you need to. And to me, that's another way to kind of deepen the bond.
Yeah.
Because that's, when you go through things, people say when you go through things, that's when you know who your real friends are. Yes, and also sometimes you can be going through things and only your real friends will be able to tell.
Yeah.
Because they can tell the difference. So
I remember, and we talked about it earlier when I was going through my divorce, and you guys kind of circled the wagon, and in your own unique way, like you were there, and that meant so much to me. Because I'm a giver, and I'm always in service to people.
Mm-hmm.
So to know that at a moment when I have nothing to give right now, like you guys gave.
It's what you're supposed to do. It's what you give what people need, but also you give so much. You have the energy. You are thoughtful. You're the one that shows up with the card and the gift and the thing, and it's just like sometimes for a reason, sometimes just because. And so, not everybody gets it, and I'm glad we were able to be that for you at that time, where you can feel that people see and notice, and also think whether or not they notice, they just determine you're deserving of that, and they're willing to give it, and they do.
Yeah.
But it kind of leads into my next question about friendship, which is what roles do friends play in your life? Because that inner circle I talked about, that's inside the other circle, was just like, oh man, people joke about, oh, you're revoking your black card or whatever. There's some friends, I'm like, in that period of time, I'm like, oh man, you might have to like commit some sort of crime and try to pin it on me to be like, oh yeah, I'm revoking the friend card because of what people did, you included, to show up for me. It's like, oh, that was a special way that people showed up. And it made me realize that, and you kind of said it too, when you said, people showed up in their unique ways. I was paying attention and I was like, I saw it. People showed up in the ways that they could, and I could tell what was a standard and what was going the extra, because I want to do that. And then I realized, I was like, there are friends in scenarios, and there isn't a value that's one more than the other. But I have friends where I'm like, oh, if we are gonna have fun, like this is the friend that I'm gonna like talk to. If I have to talk about something deep, I'm like, I'm gonna talk to this person. Yeah. Do you have people in your life that you call friends that you feel like, okay, I do have a little bit of a different way that we engage, or a different reason why we engage?
So I have, I guess, different friendship rings, right?
Yeah.
So there is my inner circle, which, you guys would be, my groomsmen, right? And it's 4. And with you guys, I can do everything. Like, we can have the deep conversations, we can party, we can listen to music, we can go learn something, we can, just be in the same room and just kick it. And then as the circle, so then the second ring may be a little more of the, differentiation between, oh, I can talk to this person, I can party with this person, I can work out with this person, I can, go do something with this person. And then that third ring is probably like associates, where it's like work people, people who I would spend time with, but you are only getting like the surface level.
Yeah, this is a part of it, and it's like, to a certain extent, if I were to leave that work scenario, there would, like, even our interaction would limit, because that's that's the connective tissue. Yeah. And I've had this with almost everything, so it's not just like isolated work. I've had this with like people I've gone to school with, and people I've worked with, people that parents you see at a daycare or something. It's just like, there is a reason that we connected to begin with, and if we stay in that zone, that's where. So when I'm talking about layers and how do you build the bonds, it's like, all right, you kind of got to move. At some point, you got to move in, or else when life changes, then you start to kind of lose that connectivity.
Yeah. And
so maybe you hold on to the moment in time and the memory and whatnot, but like, you're not in this stage a friend in the way you were.
Yeah. I'm definitely not a no new friends person.
Yeah. That was cool to say at a period of time. Yeah. And then I started to realize, as you grow, like, you might want new friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's healthy. You don't mean you gotta get rid of your old friends, but you might want new friends.
Yeah. But I have had friends who have been interchangeable between the rings, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, you think that they're in the inner circle, for example, and then they'll do something, and then you're like, my inner circle wouldn't do that, right? They wouldn't move in that way. Like, and some people, it's like they've been in the inner circle for years, because there were other friends close to me when I went through that divorce, who helped me through it, and they showed up in major ways too. But since then, they may have said something or done things that I'm just like, my
Yeah.
And I don't like to like lean into zodiac signs.
I was thinking about it.
But I might be a true Cancer, where it's like you do something that violates at a certain level, and I just can't see you the same.
It's funny you think, as you were searching for that, I was thinking about that in that our birthdays are what, 7 days apart, 8 days apart, and so you're a true Cancer, but I'm a Gemini. But I had one person do a reading, and she did an amazing job. Like, I was really captivated by it. And every time she kind of got through, this sun rising, this moon, this, that, she just kept being amazed. She's like, your stuff just keeps showing up as like heavy Cancer tendencies. And there are several Geminis in my family, and I have some similarities, but I'm pretty different from them as well. And I think about it all the time, and I'm like, yeah, maybe the Gemini part is like, you might not realize that I have changed my shift in my behavior because it'll happen real quick.
Yeah. But
once it happens,
yes,
there isn't. So maybe this is where I'm moving up the TV philosophy. Like once there's certain bridges, once you cross it, we're never going back.
Yeah.
Because I now don't believe that I can trust that you won't do that thing again or say that thing again or move in that way again. Yeah. And sometimes it's something I see happen with us in our relationship, me and the person. Other times it's like how I see them navigate with other people. So that's definitely one of it. As we keep moving through the conversation, I want to just also think about if you feel like you have a clear articulation of what you want from friendship in this stage of your life. Because I'm leaning hard into this, like, all right, we're in a place in space where, millennials and Gen Y, as we were first called, we were just young. We want life and experiences, and all we needed were people who could go along the journey with us, and who were down for that period of time. And, if you couldn't do it next week, cool, I had another group. As we get to the space, the circles are getting smaller. People are living in kind of, also too, the ones who are getting married, the ones who are having kids, the ones who are in long-term relationships, the ones living with people, they're kind of like thinking about, okay, what's my village? And are you thinking about, like, what's the village? Do you know what the village is? Maybe if the village is not what you want, is there something you want out of friendship at this stage in your life?
So I have cultivated a life that is relatively drama-free, or at least it's not drama that I produce.
Caveat.
Right.
Okay.
Because sometimes drama finds you and you can't help it. But I surround myself with people who don't have drama or bring it to me as well. So there's a lot of peace in my life. And so to be a friend, you have to, you can't disrupt that.
Mm-hmm.
And people have their own ways of disrupting it. But if I feel like it's disrupted, or if you're just a person, because you can be a nice person and still like disrupt peace.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of people that mean well.
Yeah.
And they attract the drama and the chaos. They live in the chaos and they bring it wherever they go.
Yeah. It's like that wasn't necessary. I don't know why. Right. You can bring fun, laughter, education. Just don't bring drama because, like, I've cut a lot of fat and I've cut that out of my life. Where friends I've known for 20 years, they'll do something and I'm just like, you gotta go because now you're bringing drama into my space.
That's interesting because if I think about what I want from friendship now. I think more than anything, I'm looking for a deepening of that because I'm kind of projecting ahead and I'm like, oh, the people that I have, I'm like, oh, I want to make sure we're good in the next 10, 20, 30.
Yeah.
When, like, life just changes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, so what do you, I guess I'm being conscious of that and trying to make sure I put the appropriate time and value. We talked earlier about cups. I'm like, oh, I'm juggling the work cup, the marriage cup, the kids cup, the me fun, my fun cup. And I'm like, oh, am I putting enough time and energy into the friend cup?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one area where I think as I reflect, like, oh, I haven't done enough of that. And so I'm just want to make sure I'm up placing the appropriate time and energy into maintaining, deepening the bonds necessary to make sure like these friendships sustain.
Yeah.
And so I think about that as like I'm projecting ahead. Do you have any thoughts for the periods ahead of like what you think you'll be needing? Because when I look at older members of my family and people I see, it's like these old dudes who like, they sit around, they have a drink, they sit on the porch.
Yeah.
They chill. They probably don't see each other that often, but like they chopping it up every now and then. And I feel like that's a nice thing when you can have somebody like, oh, I've known them through all the things.
Yeah, I think if I ever got the sense that my friends weren't ascending, and it doesn't just mean at work. It's like within their relationships, within their faith, with whatever it is to them. If they cease to ascend, then that might prompt another conversation where it's like, well, maybe they don't make it to the next decade with me,
So you want your friends to be healthy and growing in and of themselves as well.
Yeah.
As in the relationship with you. And I mean, I think that's a fair wish. It's just like if we can all collectively keep growing, that's the move.
And so far, especially you and the others in my inner circle, like you haven't given me a reason to think we won't be friends at 50 and 60 and 70. And when I see like Magic Johnson on his vacations with Samuel Jackson and other like black artists, I'm like, that's going to be us one day.
Who's yacht? Your yacht or mine?
Yours. Yours.
Okay, so I'm going to close it out with one last question here, and it's this. If you could leave us with one quick point on friendship, what would it be?
One quick point on friendship. So as much as I say to not bring drama into the friendship, people do make mistakes within friendships, and they say things and do things that may be a little off-putting at times. I think grace is one of those pillars to a friendship, right? Mm-hmm. I think love is spelled Grace, right? Like you have to give this person grace. Now, you don't have to continue to accept the behavior, but you have to give them grace. And I think as friends mature and as we grow as humans, we're going to evolve, we're going to change, we're going to, right? When I met you at 20, and like I'm not the same person I am at 35, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to just give people grace, and I think that's how friendships last.
That's a great one. So let's end on grace.
What is your one quick point for friendships?
When we end on grace, we gotta end on grace. I mean, if I were to give one quick point on friendship, for me, it would be to simply to give more than you would like to receive. And it's an interesting thing, and it's directly related to my thought about like, okay, am I giving enough to my friendship? because I think sometimes friendship is just like almost like any relationship where you might be feeling yourself like, oh, I'm good, everybody's good, and everybody's not good.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you need to give more energy, more time, more check-ins, more thoughtfulness. It just something, because I think especially when proximity is not the thing that holds you together, it's like, are you intentional about planning the quarterly trip or the annual trip? Or are you intentional about doing visits? I think about that a lot. It's just like, okay, are you giving enough? Are you giving more? And it's the idea that, okay, you're doing this to your friend. They're deserving of that. They will happily do that and more for you. So just make sure that you're really giving what you can and should to build in these bonds with people that can last your entire life. And aside from if you were lucky enough to find the life partner, the partner, it's like your friendships. Those are the ones that carry you through. Those are the people you're with, and they're usually there for the happiest moments you have. So honor those relationships.
Yeah, we came a long way from a tweet.
I know, right?